There's a new way to get across the border into Tijuana. And once you're there, you can take any kind of taxi or Uber you want. But next month, watch out. Carmageddon is coming. A Mexican teenager dies from liquid methamphetamine after border officers allegedly told him to drink it. And did a refugee resettlement agency tell clients to lie on rental applications? I'm Kenny Goldberg, and the KPBS Roundtable starts now. Welcome to our discussion of this week's top stories. I'm Kenny Goldberg, sitting in for Mark Sauer. And joining me at the KPBS Roundtable today are Jean Guerrero, fronteras reporter for KPBS News. Hi, Jean.
Hey, Kenny.
Sandra Dibble of the San Diego Union Tribune, who also covers the U.S.-Mexico border. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Kenny. Great to be here.
And Taryn Mentos, Peak City Heights reporter for KPBS News. Hi, Taryn.
Hey, Kenny.
Big changes are happening at the San Ysidro port of entry. A new border crossing for pedestrians to walk south into Tijuana opened this week. The Mexican government seems to have put a stop to the violent dispute between Tijuana's yellow taxis and ride-sharing services like Uber. But coming next month, a construction project will shut down car traffic into Mexico through San Ysidro for nearly 3 days. Ouch! Sandra, let's talk about the border crossing first. Where is it and why did we need it?
Well, we're talking about the Ped West border crossing, the pedestrian crossing, and we need it because we need, if you have to think about the San Ysidro port of entry, it's this vast, sprawling port of entry, and there's a pedestrian border crossing on the east side, which is very far from the west side, and you can cross north and south on the east side, but up to last week or so, you've only been able to cross, let's see, I always get this wrong, northbound. But now we can cross southbound in both directions. So that makes a big difference to about 19,000 people who cross in either direction every day. 19,000
people a day. And how did they used to cross?
Well, they used to cross on the east side. There's a whole history to this, and all the pedestrian crossings have changed since the sort of reconstruction of the San Ysidro port of entry started. But right now, they've been, most recently, they've been crossing on the east side in both directions.
Jean, is there any difference between the one on the east side and the one on the west side now?
Well, the west side is much newer, and I mean, the difference, I guess, is the fact that the Ped West doesn't process vehicles, so it's purely pedestrian. It's closer to the big Plaza Las Americas mall. People who want to get picked up there don't have to cross the bridge. It creates more convenience for people who are crossing and want different options.
What about the hours? Are there any different hours that they operate under?
I don't know the specifics for the hours.
Northbound is 24 hours on Ped West, but southbound is 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Has it eased any of the congestion from one side now that we have this other side going the other way?
It has. A year ago, the northbound opened, and that eased the horrendous lines on the east side for pedestrians. I mean, just imagine in this heat waiting 3 hours to cross. I think that has eased considerably, depending on the time of the day. Yeah.
Jean, the Ped West is just part of a larger construction project. Tell us about that. What's going on there?
Right, so it's a huge project, $741 million of renovating the San Ysidro port of entry, which is said to be the busiest land border crossing in the world. Ped West was a part of that. Last summer, we saw the opening of Ped West for northbound pedestrians. Northbound, right?
Yes,
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 okay.
Yes.
And now we're seeing the southbound lanes opening. And the next part of the project is going to be to add 8 northbound vehicle lanes to the port of entry, bringing it to a total of 33, and doubling the southbound lanes to 5. So that'll just make it hopefully easier and faster for people to cross by vehicle or foot.
Right, and to do that, Sandra, we're talking about some major disruptions next month. What's up with that?
Yeah, this has been a very ambitious project, and I think the big, hardest part is about to happen, which means realigning the I-5. It means closing the highway. So next month, for a 57-hour period, I think it's September 23rd through the 25th, all southbound vehicle traffic will stop, which means southbound at San Ysidro, which means anyone who wants to drive into Tijuana during that period has to go to Otay, which is about 7 miles to the east. But that'll bring a huge amount of congestion. So GSA and all the agencies are trying to really warn people, if you don't have to cross, don't. Or use the new pedestrian facilities.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, Jean, because Otay Mesa, there's a difference in size between San Ysidro and Otay Mesa. Can Otay Mesa handle all this extra traffic?
Right, there is a question as to whether they'll be able to handle it because there are much fewer lanes. So at the San Ysidro Chamber of Commerce, I was at a meeting recently and they were talking about how, like, we don't want this to mean that you don't cross the border. Like, you could, through San Ysidro, you don't have to cross through Otay Mesa. You could still cross through San Ysidro, just cross on foot and take public transport. That's what they're saying.
And we're talking about 57 hours here. I mean, like, how tight is this schedule of work that will be done? I mean, is there any outside factors that could push it more than 57 hours? Like, how good are we at predicting this? It's only going to take 57 hours.
I think the 57-hour complete shutdown, we can pretty much, I don't think that they would suddenly change that. I think the 57 hours is almost the easy part. The hard part is going to be the next 20 months when there will be reduced capacity. They're going to go from the current 5 southbound lanes to 3 for 2 months, and then for the next 18 months, 4. And that, that can mean an hour wait. It depends if you have southbound inspections. People are going to be really have to think about their habits of crossing the border.
Absolutely. And speaking of public transportation, Jean, it wasn't that long ago that you'd cross into the border on foot and you'd see all these yellow taxis, a plethora of yellow taxis. Well, what's happened with that?
So the mayor, the city of Tijuana has banned them from 9 of the sidewalks that they used to congregate at the border crossings. And there were a multitude of incidents, I guess, that led up to that. Part of it was just this, the fact that they were accused of harassing people who wanted to take alternative modes of transportation, like Uber, for example. In Mexico, ever since Uber started operating, I think that was in 2012 or 2013, it's been like a really hard pill for traditional taxi drivers to swallow, and they kind of unite and unite against them and tell passengers that they have to take traditional cabs, and this has led to fights and bullying and just ongoing harassment. And earlier this summer, there was actually a violent incident that was recorded on camera where visitors from San Diego crossing in San Ysidro were waiting for their Ubers, and they got into these arguments with cab drivers, yellow cab drivers, who were saying, you have to take our cabs, and it escalated, and so that was when the city decided enough was enough and they weren't going to let them come back.
Now, Sandra, what is the connection, a political connection, that the Taxi Drivers Union has with political party? Could you explain that for us?
I mean, transportation sort of historically in Mexico has always been very politically connected. And these taxi driver unions, the yellow taxis are associated with the CROM, C-R-O-M, which is a federation of unions linked to Mexico's formerly ruling PRI, Institutional Revolutionary Party. And that is a sort of corporatist system that worked for years, and that's how you work things out, through the party when there was only one party rule. But Mexico's really, really changed. And in some ways, the yellow taxis seem like this remnant of the past that don't seem to fit in this much more sort of fractured and changing Mexico.
Jean, why did Tijuana crack down on the taxis after all this time? Why now?
Well, like I said, the incident earlier this summer, but he was also saying, like, he wants people, visitors, tourists, residents to feel comfortable using any mode of transportation. He says the sidewalks belong to the people, not to any single company, and he wants there to be mobility in the city. That's a very important thing to him. And part of that is the fact that he's trying to rebuild the reputation of Tijuana. There's been a significant increase in violence this year, and people are afraid to cross the border in many cases, and he wants to convey the message that the city is doing what it can to promote tourism and make people feel comfortable coming down and not feel like they have to be bullied into taking one particular cab.
On our side of the border, between like yellow taxis and Uber and rideshare apps, there's kind of a similar debate playing out. There's kind of that power struggle. And I know that one of the things that the taxi drivers say over on our side is that the regulations that they face are much like higher and stronger than what Uber rideshare drivers face as well. I think like taxi drivers have to submit to drug testing every couple times, every couple years. Is that a factor that we see down in Mexico? Is there any difference between how they're regulated, those two groups?
Oh, there's a big difference in how they're well, Uber isn't regulated at all currently in Mexico, so it's kind of in a gray. It's operating in a sort of gray legal area in Mexico.
Here, I think a little bit.
Yeah, but there's still this perception that it's safer.
The taxis or Uber?
No, the Uber.
Oh, okay.
In particular because the taxis have gotten this reputation of being sort of just harassing people and in other parts of Mexico, not so much in Tijuana, there have been kidnappings related to taxis. Kidnappings of foreigners, and so there's just this perception of danger associated with taxis in Mexico.
Has Uber have any of those issues, or they have not had any reports about any problems with Uber yet in Mexico?
Well, there was one problem with Uber that was reported earlier this spring. We don't know exactly what caused it, but some San Diego students were actually riding in an Uber car, and the Uber driver was shot to death.
Right.
And they were okay, but that was a significant incident.
Well, we have a clip of the mayor of Tijuana talking about the crackdown on yellow taxis and how he's using that to try to promote tourism.
If you go ahead and looking for trouble, you'll find trouble. Yes, you will find it, and you won't take long. But if you go and look for doing things right, visit the right places, you don't have any problem.
Sandra, how safe is Tijuana for tourists?
Well, that's always the huge question, and it's hard to answer because it's so relative. I think it's safe. I believe it's safe if you're just going to go down and go to the cultural center, go for a great meal, go visit friends. But I also think you need to figure out, well, do I speak Spanish? Can I find my way around? Am I comfortable going there? So it's a very individual question. Maybe if you don't know Tijuana at all, maybe the first time you want to go with a tour. But as you get more familiar with the city and you figure out which neighborhoods are okay, then you just measure the risk that you are willing to take. But I think to go to a restaurant, to go to the cultural center, I don't think there's a huge risk.
Well, let's move on to our next segment. A troubling video shot at the San Ysidro port of entry aired this week on ABC. The video was from 2013, and it showed U.S. Customs agents talking to a Mexican teenager. They gestured to the boy to drink from a bottle he had brought with him. They laughed as he did so. The bottle contained liquid methamphetamine. The boy died later that day. The U.S. government paid his family $1 million. The customs agents were not disciplined. Jean, help us understand what happened. Why did the agents ask this young man to drink from the bottle?
Well, first of all, we don't know for a fact that they asked him to drink. They deny that they asked him to drink. And it is unclear from the video exactly what's happening because we see the customs officers, but their backs are turned to the camera. You do see, however, that they are pushing. Like one of the officers, the female officer, pushes the bottle towards Cruz. He looks at her kind of confused, and she goes like this. She tips her fingers towards her mouth, which implies potentially that she's asking him to drink, and that's when he drinks. And then the other officer gestures at the bottle, and he drinks again. And then he hands him the other bottle, and he takes 2 sips. And so it seems that they are asking him to take a drink from these bottles, but we don't know that for a fact.
Well, let me ask you, how closely did these agents follow protocol vis-a-vis suspicious liquids that show up there?
Right. So the officers are trained when they encounter a suspicious substance to test the substance with chemical reagents that are available in test kits. And apparently these were just footsteps away from the station, from where they were sitting. So if they had been following protocol, that would have been the normal thing to do. And eventually they did test the substance because Cruz became very visibly intoxicated. He was sweating profusely just minutes after taking the sips. And they did eventually confirm it was liquid meth. About half an hour after he drank, they called the paramedics. At that point, it was too late. He died a few minutes later at Sharp Chula Vista Hospital. But one thing I forgot to mention that is also a disturbing element of the video is that the officers repeatedly turn to each other and laugh when they're gesturing with the bottle and having him drink.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about that. What kind of investigation was there into this whole incident, and what did they conclude?
So Nothing happened to the officers. They concluded, so first of all, Customs and Border Protection conducted an internal investigation that lasted almost a year. They determined that, quote, no further action was warranted. That's what they told me in a statement. The officers were not disciplined in any way. The San Diego Police Department also conducted an investigation, and they provided a copy of that investigation to the U.S. Attorney, who decided not to file charges. The only, I guess, sort of impact that came of it was the U.S. government gave a $1 million settlement to the family.
All right, now all this happened in 2013. Why are we hearing about it now?
So the video of the incident was released about a week ago by ABC, by ABC News. And when that video was released to the public, there was outrage from members of Congress who saw the video. Several members of Congress issued statements and requests of the Department of Homeland Security that something be done, that officers at CBP, Customs and Border Protection, receive more training, more in-depth training to ensure that this doesn't happen again. One of those people was Congressman Juan Vargas. I spoke with him, and he said that he requested an immediate response from the Department of Homeland Security to make sure this doesn't happen.
And have we seen any changes as a result of that request?
Not yet. I did follow up with him earlier today, and I haven't received a response, but so far it looks like the requests are still pending.
Now, we do have a clip from the attorney of the boy's family. His name is Gene Iredell. Let's hear what he had to say about this whole case.
This was a 16-year-old boy who was doing something admittedly wrong, who was doing something for which he deserved possibly to be punished, certainly to be brought before the court and called upon to answer for his conduct. But instead, these agents decided to have a little fun at his expense and take the risk that they imposed on him that he would die, which is exactly what happened.
What's the level of outrage that you're hearing about this case?
I mean, it's a story that's being talked about a lot on social media. People are very upset. They want more. They want journalists to further investigate if there was actual wrongdoing on the part of the Customs and Border Protection. It just seems people are very confused as to why this was sort of forgotten, or like, you know, it happened in 2013 and we're just hearing about it now, and what can be done to make sure this doesn't happen again.
How much do we know about what Cruz was aware of like what was in the bottle, how potent it was, and how he got in this situation in the first place?
We don't know a lot of those details. There was some comments from the family that he had been pressured to do this, that he was doing this because he felt that he or his family was at risk if he didn't cross this bottle. I don't know if he knew how potent it was. I don't know if he knew it was going to be fatal. You can see from the video he's taking very light sips.
So it's only like a little bit he took?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, a little was fatal, though. Well, thank you very much. Let's move on to our next segment. And it's tough for families of any size to find affordable housing in San Diego. So imagine how tough it is for refugees with large families who depend on resettlement agencies to help them find a place to live. The International Rescue Committee has been helping large families from Syria get situated here. Some of these refugees say the IRC helped them find a place to live, but has caused them a big problem. Taryn, what kind of problem are we talking about?
Right, so I talked to 4 families that were settled at the end of last year, and 3 of them told me specifically that they were directed by IRC staff to sign leases that omitted their family members' names, some of their family members' names from the leases. These are families of about 7 and 8, and only about 6 people's names appear on the lease, and it seems that that move was intended to get families into smaller apartments, larger families in smaller apartments, because it would be a little bit cheaper for them. Some of the refugees were saying they were told by the staff members, hey, we're not finding houses for you that you can afford.
And what's wrong with lying on the application?
Well, it says it right there on the lease, that it says that, you know, occupants that live in the home that are not listed on the lease could be considered a material violation and result in you being asked to leave. That did happen to one family. Now, that family didn't explicitly say that they were directed to conceal the true number of their family members like the others. But this family, was a family of 7, insisted they told everybody involved, even the manager and the IRC staff member, we're a family of 7. Here are our papers that show that. Still, 6 names appeared on the lease. They were ultimately asked to leave. And when I spoke to, the supervisor, she told me it was because they were outside the number of occupants that HUD, Federal Housing Agency, allows.
And what are those standards, Karen?
So this is kind of where you get into a little bit of complication, but generally HUD guidelines specifically for subsidized housing say it's this 2+2 rule. You have 2 people per bedroom plus 2 more for the overall home. So like they could sleep in the living room, that could be considered living room quarters. But in California, the general standard is 2+1, and that means 2 people per bedroom plus 1 additional occupant. And then in El Cajon, which is where these families were put, they can be 2+1 or 2+2, depending on the actual size of the living room. So a landlord can decide how many they want based on being, quote, like reasonable, everyone says, within these guidelines. But the resettlement agencies are expected to follow, at the very least, federal housing guidelines or the local or state guidelines if those are, quote, higher, is what a State Department official told me.
Now, one of the issues is that these families are alleging that the IRC told them to lie in the applications. What does the IRC say?
The IRC has said repeatedly that the executive director said, I spoke to the caseworkers. They said that they're not doing this. They're saying that they've not encouraged families to conceal the true number of their family from landlords. And, IRC National has told us that, they're looking into it. But, everyone doesn't seem to, National, they're responsible for, I honestly don't know the true number of affiliates that IRC National has, but they're responsible for a lot of agencies across the country. So I wouldn't have expected them to know about 4 refugee families that have been resettled in San Diego.
Yeah, in fact, we have a statement from the IRC. And let's take a look at that. It says, quote, "We are concerned about these reports and are investigating the situation to establish the facts. The IRC is deeply committed to delivering the best possible resettlement experience for our clients and take our responsibilities in doing so seriously." That comes from the regional director of IRC. Taryn, this speaks to an overall problem in San Diego of lack of affordable housing. And what's the issue with larger families like some of these families? What are some of the challenges that they face?
Right. Well, you have a limited amount of federal funding that goes one time per refugee to each family. And so you have an issue with cost. How far is your money going to go? 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom apartment to fit some of these families? That's going to be really expensive. We all know that. We all live here. The other question is, do those homes of that size exist? Are they available? Are 3, 4-bedroom apartments or homes, are they common? If you have 3 families, 4 families, 5 families of 6, 7, 8 people, maybe even 10 coming in at one time, do you have that number of apartments available in the housing stock? Vacancy rates at this point, we're at 1% in East County. That's kind of part of the problem.
Yes.
I'm curious how the travel ban might affect this, depending on how it unfolds.
Right. So, as we know right now that San Diego received a lot of refugees over many, many years, and the reporting by the UT pointed out how, for the first time in a decade, we're reaching, historic lows of the number of refugees trickling in. The thing that's interesting is the resources funding that resettlement workers have is tied to how many cases they resettle. So you get about $2,000 per refugee. Half of it goes to the refugee to cover their housing, their shelter, their food, etc., all the things you need to start a life. The other half goes to the agency to do that work. Right. So if you're halting the number of refugees coming in, you're also halting the resources going to these agencies. And when the ban, however the ban plays out, if resettlement picks back up, are we going to have all of the staff properly trained to address this surge of refugees that are possibly going to be coming back in after this lifts? I think that's a question. And looking back at the last time, that the point that I was making when I did the story is that we received a surge of refugees. Were we ready then? And have we learned any lessons for if we'll be ready again in the future?
And let me ask you lastly, Taryn, San Diego is a very expensive place to live. What do you hear about in other less expensive places? Are they having the same kinds of problems?
I talked to a lot of people kind of in resettlement and looking at immigration policy and trends, and I hadn't found anybody that had heard of this issue of larger families being kind of squeezed into smaller apartments and omitting names on leases. They hadn't heard that. But Jessica Darrow is a researcher that we talked to extensively. She did say that she looked at resettlement in Chicago a few years back and found at least one resettlement agency was routinely sacrificing housing quality for affordability. So it's not just San Diego, it's happening at least in Chicago, which also received a large amount of refugees, not as much as San Diego, but still a good amount.
Do you think there could have been a communications gap? That they didn't say exactly, or a baby was born, or
No, so the family was the size. There was no new additional family members that were born during the time from when they landed to when they were put into the homes. They were the size when they got here, and that was what the government approved for them to be here too. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's all we have time for this week, and that wraps up another week of the stories at the KPBS Roundtable. Thanks to Jean Guerrero, Sandra Dibble, and Taryn Mento for joining us. A reminder, all of the stories we discussed today are available on our website, kpbs.org, and anytime wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Kenny Goldberg. Thanks for joining us today on the Roundtable.